Hey guys, great to see you. This is Bob and my name's Ramon, and we're here to do the
Bob and Ramon show.
There you go.
I had to think about that for a minute.
Well, you know.
Bit of Alzheimer's cutting in.
No.
Right, now, we've moved around in this room. We're kind of rotating around these amps that we're sitting in the middle of, and we're quite close to the cameras because we're now kind of along the room and everything's a bit tight. Okay, so we've got so many amps in this room, you can barely move.
Yep.
So, what are we up on now? We're now playing a couple of, we'll do close-ups again to just insert, but I'm playing through an early 60s Blonde Bassman, piggyback Bassman, and you are playing through an early 60s
Tremolux
piggyback.
Tremolux, yeah.
So a pair of Blondes.
Yeah.
Again, these amps haven't seen much use, so they could be a little cranky, a little bit crackly. But so far, I have to say, I mean, just...
Well, let's give a little taster. Let's see if,
good.
Let's play some T-Bone Walker Stormy Monday Blues.
Bit of Stormy Monday. Shall I
Great.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. So the first thing I think, Bob, is these amps sound rather chimey.
They are. They're chimey, sweet.
Yep.
I mean, we're down the lower volume end of these amps. We're not really making them hurt.
No.
And I've another friend of mine has got one of these piggyback Bassmans, and it's got a bit of a cranky volume control, so it's kind of off or on. But my God, when they get angry, they get pretty loud.
Yeah, and it's just interesting when you're saying the word Bassman, some people might think, oh, the 4x10 version. But this is obviously the 2x12.
2x12, yeah.
And what's very interesting about this amp, let me just give you the listeners a little bit of a clue.
So
now, why did we play that? Bob?
You're playing that because this Bassman that I'm playing through, just down to my left buttock, used to belong to Bonehead, the guitar player in Oasis.
That's right.
The current owner, Simon, got it from him. He's even got a little certificate of authenticity.
And you can see, we're going to show a close-up, there's a little Oasis sticker on.
There is an Oasis sticker just literally by my left buttock.
So the famous Nebworth concert, I think that was back in the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, late 90s.
And anyway, that was the amp that was on stage at Nebworth.
So, famous amp.
Yeah, and Bonehead is actually, because I performed, and a good friend of mine, Aziz Ibrahim, who played in the Stone Roses, is a very, very good friend of mine. A shout out to Aziz. He's a man, he's a great player. And he's very good friends with Bonehead, and Aziz always said to me, Bonehead's a really sweet guy.
Right.
He's a really nice guy. So Bonehead, you're the man.
Well, where we are,
You know?
we literally, apparently, he used to live across the road.
Yes.
And known
yes,
around here, and he's got a really good rap around here too. So, yeah.
Good for Bonehead.
Hats off for him. Yeah.
I was always.
And the Stone Roses were a fine old band too.
Oh, fantastic!
Like
Manchester sound, you know, can't beat it.
Absolutely. Kept the old guitar thing flying again.
Yeah, I mean that's a great thing. You know, growing up in the '90s, I don't want to, talk about the past guys, but I'll stop it.
I've got more past than it is.
But growing up in the early '90s, man, I feel sorry for youngsters these days because growing up in the '90s, you had all the old bands like Dire Straits doing their last albums, yeah. But then you had all this new Oasis, Blur, all the Britpop bands coming up, and you had Nirvana, Guns N' Roses. So yeah, it was a great time for guitar music, and I feel really sorry. I feel so sorry for youngsters that they don't have the same atmosphere and vibe that I had when I was growing up.
Yeah, but these things go around and they come back. I mean, I could say the same thing about the period that I just came in on the tail end of when I was like, getting into teenage, right?
Right.
So the whole British, the British blues thing had lifted off already, and I kind of joined the train when I was about 14, 15. But that went on, and then that went through the 70s, and there was some fantastic music of the 70s, as well as some complete drivel. Over glamorized stuff or over indulgent prog at its worst.
Yep.
But then along came punk, that swept the whole kitchen clean again.
Yep.
That was really exciting.
Reset button.
Then you had the new wave that came in after that. That was the Dire Straits era. Bands like Talking
Because
Heads.
almost Dire Straits were new wave when they came out. Because they were seen as this kind of like shadows.
Yeah.
They had this kind of let's do a play some, because can I just say we have had a complaint on this channel, we don't play enough. So
what, we don't play enough?
Yeah.
I was going to say we don't play enough Dire Straits.
Too much this and
Too
not
much
enough this.
Not right, we're going to play some more.
So
but sorry fellas, it's got to be Dire Straits. What's it going to be?
Let's do it's a groove, there's a song called Once Upon a Time in the West, kind of which goes So basically, so these amps are so cool because they do. I turned my amp up in the middle of that, and it started to just sing.
Right, start and compress a little bit.
Yeah, and just sing, and that's incredible, man.
Well, this is something about really old, simple, proven, handmade valve circuits.
Yeah,
it's all about that, isn't it?
Yeah,
we're surrounded by tubes. I mean, these amps some of them haven't been very well maintained. And so they can be a bit noisy and a bit fluffy and all the rest of it. But generally speaking, I mean, they are. We're surrounded by testaments to what all the fuss is about.
And another thing about the Bonehead Oasis amplifier that Bob is playing through. Interestingly, this was the amp that Eric Clapton had in his house when he was rehearsing for the Blind Faith project with Stevie Winwood and Ginger Baker and the bass player, I don't recall the name.
Rick Gretsch.
Rick Gretsch, yeah. So I'm pretty sure. I mean, I actually thought that the amp was a Tremolux when I first saw it, but I think it was a Bassman actually.
It was.
We can put the photo up.
I think on the Blind Faith, the original vinyl album sleeve, I think there's a photograph of the band rehearsing, and I think inside in black and white.
Right.
And I think it's one of these.
Yeah, it's either one of these ones, but more than likely the Bassman. The Tremolux, my good friend Paul, who actually lived not far from where we are now, he owns a Tremolux amp, which was owned and used by 10cc, the band of I'm Not in Love fame.
Who were a well-known, really hi-fi band.
Yeah.
They were really hi-fi.
Yeah, and apparently that amp was on a lot of hits.
Right.
So, you know, it's a kind of these amps, these kind of blonde Toilex amps do crop up in a lot of people. Brian Setzer is another one that likes the blonde Toilex amp, you know, Fender amp. You know, I think it's a Bassman he uses, you know.
Well, so I mean, Brian Setzer, all about rockabilly.
Yeah.
It's about, you know, mainly Gretsch, you know, Fidelatrons pickups.
Yeah.
Lots of thunk.
But it's got a bit of that. It's like, you know, it's like just waking the amp up, and when he thumps on his Gretsch, there's a bit of hair on it.
Yeah.
There's just a tiny bit of hair, and I guess that's what he's looking for. He's not looking for the Marshall sound, which is a singing violin sound.
And driven.
Yeah, he wants clean, but he just wants when he hits
zing.
it, when he hits the guitar hard, he wants it to bark back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Fantastic. So what else have we got to say about these? I mean, these chaps, these blonde ones, they came in what, late 50s, early 60s. So they after the Tweeds, the famous Tweeds. We're going to get to a Tweed or two. And they're before the black faces, and indeed before the brown faces, which lasted for a little while.
Yeah, I kind of always saw them as a surf era amp, you know,
Yeah.
the amp that was used in a lot of surf, like the Ventures and
I think at that time, it's a bit like all the discussion about, you know, the TV colours on Gibson Les Paul Juniors and Specials. It's a bit, I think, the same thing that Fender was going for a television presence, and these things look fantastic.
Yeah.
On black and white television.
And you know,
the amps, clean and
the amps became more high powered from the Tweed area, where bands were getting louder, playing with drummers and so forth. And it really was, you know, because I think the design really ultimately evolved to the blackface area, where that was, you know, the ultimate of the, you know, the clean Fender amp.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like in between. You know, the power wattages went up, transformers were improved, and it was that kind of intermediary sort of period.
Well, the other thing is, you know, bands were getting louder, and also music was getting more popular. Popular music was getting more popular. It's in the name.
Yeah.
And so they were playing to bigger audiences. That meant bigger venues. And remember, back in that day, and indeed until the 70s, all the sound was coming off the back of the stage. So if you didn't have a powerful enough amp, as a guitar player or a bass player, then you were inaudible.
And you know, for Brian Setzer, you think about his music, you know, the atmosphere of that amp sound is everything for his tone.
Yeah, it's all about that tone and that chime.
And a blackface amp probably wouldn't give him that sound. You know? Let's do a bit of rockabilly, yeah. So let me give Seymour. Again, this is around. I've kind of same with the Super Reverb. You get it just up 3, going towards 4, and that's where it's going to be singing and barking at you.
Okay.
You know, and that's really the magic spot, because then you can use your volume controls to back off. Like here, if I want to, then I can go to my rhythm pickup. So that's how, you know, and then you boom, you're on your lead pickup. But that's really the beauty of these particular amps. I mean, and also another thing is, I like them because, you know, for me personally, I don't like combos generally because combos are heavy. The big, you know, like the AC30, the Marshall Blues Breaker.
Yeah.
They're a nightmare to carry, whereas the piggyback amps are always a lot easier. You know, you've got a cab.
So I'm really torn. I mean, the kind of gigs I play tend not to take very big amps. I tend to prefer combos just because I can get in and out of the gig with a guitar on my shoulder, a combo in my hand, and my little tiny pedal board, and I'm in and out in one. Yeah. Which I kind of like. But you are right, and also, you know, Cliff, who does 633 amps, is a good friend of ours.
Yes.
He makes combos as well. But his recommendation, pretty strong one, is you can possibly separate the head and the cab. It's really much better for the tubes.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, although there's a counterpoint. Some people say, actually, no, you want the speaker interference with the tubes to give you more stuff. I think it probably works, but it'll shorten their life.
Absolutely, yeah.
And with the, you know, be careful with the tubes these days because you're not quite sure where you're going to get your next tubes from.
No, especially the vintage.
Well, you know, the vintage now, you know, command large sums of money.
Yeah.
But you know, with things, you know, Ukraine, Russia, China, most of the places they're made, getting a bit sketchy.
Just lastly, before we go, Bob's playing his beautiful Squire Fender Cabronita.
Cheap guitar
with what are these? Dano
Fidelatron.
Who made the original ones? Did Dano Electro?
No, Gretsch.
Gretsch made the original ones.
These are the original. Gretsch would say these were humbuckers invented before humbuckers.
Before the.
I mean, in 1957, they were all in aggressive competition to get to the market first.
Yeah.
Bit of a space race on pickups.
Yeah.
So these were Gretsch's first. They were called Filtertrons. And they're legendary.
Yeah.
And then various people make aftermarket ones, like TV Jones are the famous ones, and they're really good.
Yeah.
Then way later, in the 90s, noughties even, Fender bought Gretsch.
Of course, yeah.
They began to sort of merge bodily fluids, as you do, and these are therefore what Fender owned Gretsch now put on their middle lower end guitars, and they're called Fidelatrons.
From Fender.
I mean, they're kind of
or Fidelity, maybe.
Well,
who knows?
They
You're an ad man. You should know this.
I should know this, shouldn't I? Yeah, let the marketing people in what happens. But
it's a great sounding guitar.
They're these, and funnily enough, these Fidelatrons are actually quite sought after, not because they have any intrinsic value, but because they're only for sale on a very few guitars.
So is this model still available now?
No, I think they make some. No, the current Cabronita has P90s in it.
I see.
Which is a different take on a Telecaster.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's not interesting, but I've got some fabulous vintage guitars with P90s on them. I'd never had the combination of the Telecaster chassis and these, let's call them Filtertron pickups.
Yeah.
When I first played a guitar that had this combination, I thought, wow, this is one of those, you know, shot in the dark combination that works. So that's why I always wanted to get one. And it took years, and eventually I found one going really cheap, like 240 quid, and bought this. And I'm kind of still getting used to it, to know it. But I might yet do something with the pickups, because strangely, in this room we're in, through the amps we're playing in today, these pickups sound really nice. I'm mainly on the neck. But when I'm at home, these pickups sound quite dark. And
what I'm doing, I'm juxtaposition to my friend Bob. I'm playing kind of a 335 style guitar made by ESP Navigator, and these are Seymour Duncan 59 pickups. The old ones, these were made in 1995. But just to give a kind of an idea of how a PAF style pickup would sound against the Fidelatrons, you know.
And they are really quite different. This is much more like a Telecaster than a humbucker guitar.
Yeah.
Whereas that's very much a humbucker guitar, you know. So they're quite a contrast.
Yeah.
But a good blend.
A good blend, yeah. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to do a couple more of these videos because our YouTube channel was seriously lacking on amps, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was. We focused a lot on guitars, and so we're going to do a couple more videos on some really nice smaller combos. So check it out, guys.
Yeah, coming soon. For now,
goodbye from him. It's goodbye from me. Take care.
Till next time. Bye.